What up, y'all? DCFAYGOGUY. Welcome back to What's Happening Now. It's been about a month since the last episode, but we got some stuff to talk about, some interviews that have happened. I don't really want to touch too much on the interviews. Obviously, there was another appearance on the Mom's House podcast. This time it was ICP, not just Shaggy. That was a great one. That was a good one that I really liked. They obviously made another appearance on No Jumper. I made it maybe an hour into that interview and I turned it off because Whack was annoying the shit out of me. Killed the fucking vibe of that interview for me. What's another one that they were on recently? I think they were on Pauly Shore's little podcast that he has. Basically, there's a bunch of interviews that have been coming out that have surfaced from them kind of going on a little circuit up to and after, I think, a little after Juggalo weekend, and they were just now starting to come out this month, and a lot of them were really good. The bootleg Kev one was kind of whatever, and again, the No Jumper one was kind of whatever. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of bootleg Kev, especially after Juggalo Dundee had pointed out all the mad shit he used to talk about ICP and Juggalos. I never realized he did it. I know in previous episodes I had said that I enjoy bootleg Kev's interviews, but like after learning that, I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking two-faced. Because in one breath he's fucking talking shit about them, and then in the next he's kissing their ass. So it's, I watched it for the sake of watching it. Obviously he did one for Violent J back last year when they were doing the Three-Headed Monster tour. Nothing really new came out of these interviews, I don't think. Nothing like amazing came out of them. There was an interview that did happen recently, and there's actually one happening this Monday with Replicon Radio, but I'm jumping ahead of myself, way ahead of myself. Let's jump into this and pull up Faygo Lovers here. Faygo Lovers, again, always going to be my go-to source. So pretty much if it's not posted on their website, like, I tend to forget about it sometimes. I don't always visit their website on my phone, but I am definitely, their shit always pops up on my Facebook feed, and that's where I see a lot of my news is coming from them. So there is some stuff I feel like they have on their Facebook page that's not on this. Yeah, I got my windows open. Let's jump the fuck into it. The very first thing is the announcement of the House of Horror show at the Gathering, which is awesome. If you don't know what this is going to be, this is basically the House of Horrors tour that they did back 1990. Was it 7 or was it 8 when they did this show? When they did this tour? Let's read here real quick. Yes, back in 1998, some of y'all's moms were out on dates, but that's the year ICP had their prominent clown shoes firmly on the neck of a nation with the House of Horrors tour, in true Motown fashion. So yeah, this is I'm assuming the exact same set list from 1998, which for the OG Jolos out there is going to be fucking phenomenal because that's going to be Great Malenko, Riddlebox, probably some Ringmaster in there, obviously some Carnival of Carnage. This is all going to be that era. And for a lot of people, I think a lot of people that I kind of like associate with, I know of a few people that have said this was their first tour. I want to say the homies at Deck One Dealt. I think maybe Keezy and Carver said this was their first show. I could be wrong with that. Maybe it was Beastmaster. I don't know. I don't remember. I've heard a lot of people say, though, that they've been to this show for their first show. So this is going to be a big one for a lot of people. And I believe, I did not look at the details, should be the second night. So it would be the Thursday night of the Gathering. See, I love it when they do nostalgic shit like this. I know there's people out there that want to give twisted shit for doing it. And maybe on the opposite side of the fence or opposite side of the shit puddle, people are throwing shit at ICP for doing it. But I love it when they do it because, like, the nostalgic shit for me is what I love. And I don't know, there's something about... There's a funny experience I had at the Gathering last year during the first night of the Wicked Clowns from Outer Space show. I'm there singing my ass off to every fucking song that's playing, and I could visually look around and see people that visually they look like they didn't have a fucking clue what was playing. And that was kind of a mind blow for me of the amount of people there not aware of this song playing. I'm like, and having the thought of like, how do you not know this? Or if you do know this, how are you sitting still? Because I remember one point I was like really tired, so I sat in my fucking camping chair and I'm still like there singing along. This is going to be one of those shows where I would be singing along. Again, if you haven't watched any of the other episodes, as of right now, me and Megs are not going, but that is subject to change. We got to get our financials in order. Again, I have stated that we are really setting our sights on Camp Zool this year with the possibility of the float. But, as details about the float are coming out, now we're, maybe reassessing that even a little bit too, which we'll get into that in just a minute. But the House of Horror show is going to be fucking great. Again, I'm pretty sure it's going to be happening on the Thursday night, the second night of the gathering. I think typically ICP reserves the final show for just like a mixed bag, like just a current set list, if you will, for them to perform. So, yeah, I'm pretty positive this is going to be the second night. And it's probably saying it here, but I don't want to waste too much of your guys' time like trying to read and find out the details. And I did not read it ahead of time because I just saw the announcement. I was like, oh shit, that's dope. They're doing that at the gathering. And then I made my assumptions of when they're going to be doing it because that's the way they've been doing it since 2017. Yeah, basically ever since the split with Twisted, they've given us 2 nights of ICP shows, and the first night is usually always like a special performance. Like at the 2018 gathering, they did Hell's Pit. At the 2019 gathering, they did Supervillains. On the 2021 gathering, it was the first Jukebox show, right? Or was that the Bizarre Bazaar show? Am I getting my years mixed up? I think it was 2021 was the Bizarre Bazaar, then 2022 was the Jukebox show, and then 2023 obviously was the Wicked Clowns from Outer Space 1. So that's kind of the way they've always done it. So I just made my assumption of that's what they're when and where they're doing the House of Horrors show. But that's gonna be dope nonetheless. And if I do end up going to the gathering, that is definitely one of the shows that I'm gonna be hyped for. So I'll go ahead and close that out and open this one up. This one's not something I want to really spend too much time on, but I do want to just kind of briefly touch on it because it's something that I experienced, and I don't know if Chad who made this post, I don't know where he kind of came up with this or not, but it's crazy, and it's like blowing my mind that I wasn't the only one that was having this reaction on March 8th. I seen everybody everywhere posting, oh yeah, happy 30th anniversary to Ringmaster, March 8th, 1994. And I'm like, wait a fucking minute. Didn't this album come out in January? Like, in 2017, I made it my goal to do every Psychopathic Records album review that I hadn't done at that point. And when I looked it up, January 28th was when the Ringmaster came out. So that's when I did my review. And I went back and double checked that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. When I went and Googled it, now, or like on the 8th, it showed it came out on the 8th. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I swore up and down I remember seeing it for January 28th. A couple of days go by, the homies over at Deck One Del, they did their show doing a 30-year anniversary fucking celebration of the Ringmaster. So I was in their chat like saying like I've experienced a Mandela Effect because I swear to God I remember seeing that this came out on the 28th. And then on their show, they looked, and there were actually 2 different sources. One that said January 28th, and the other that said March 8th. And I'm pretty sure they were both Wikipedia. Like, no matter how you Googled it, you could find one source that said January 28th, and another one that said the 8th. There was someone in their chat that was pretty sure that what had happened was the original first pressing of the Ringmaster had some kind of a misprint on it, and that one was released on January 28th. And then they had a second pressing that came out on March 8th. At this point, I guess that's the assumption that we're going to run with. But regardless, the Ringmaster, as of this point now going forward, has at least been out for 30 years. But it's something I wanted to touch on because I swear to God, I remember seeing January 28th, but when you go look at, there's actually a March 8th date. And that was one of the things that Chad was posting in here was the biggest mystery is the actual release date of when ICP's Ringmaster became available for the public to purchase in Detroit, as a wide variety of music sources have 2 different street dates for Ringmaster. I didn't even look at the comments. I don't even think there is comments on this. There is no comments on this. So apparently nobody knows, and I guess ultimately nobody really gives a shit. But an interesting Mandela effect for sure. But yeah, Ringmaster. And I know one of the other sources we had found, Megs had found it, in the first 6 box set, it says January 28th. So I guess we could go by the first 6 box set for sure, because that's what they have down on paper. And nobody can change that paper, but somebody can change it on the internet. So I'm holding firm on the January 28th because that's like a physical proof of it. But obviously, so as you get older, dates get misremembered. I mean, you know, I can't even tell. I was trying to think of a good comparison, but like, I could tell you the first time I had sex. I can tell you that. It was Mother's Day of 2008. But yeah, you know, sometimes dates get mixed in the sauce, and maybe that's what has happened. Who fucking knows? But an interesting Mandela effect, nonetheless. For me, it blew my fucking mind. We briefly touched on it. Tom Woods, The Float, officially announced. I mean, I think most people assumed it was going to happen. He had teased it was happening. The tickets are officially on sale, and we got a couple of artists already announced for it. The 2 that I think stand out the most for me is Violent J and Scum. I would say Darby O'Trill. I'm not a huge fan of his music. It's not quite my cup of tea, but you know, seeing him perform and seeing him, seeing his stage presence would be something that I would at least like to see once. But Lil White, never really was a big fan of his, and I heard he was kind of douchey at the super famous Super Show back on March 16th. Everyone else, I know of Ice Giant. He was at Unity Fest. He did all right. But everybody else is kind of like, you know. I did find it interesting, though, that Violent J is headlining this year's float. And that makes me wonder, will Shaggy be there or not? And, you know, if so, is there going to be like a surprise ICP performance? Or will they do 2 solo sets? And part of me wonders if it's not just that they're going to have Jay this year. And I don't know if it's just to make things different. I don't know if Shaggy's planning a tour around that time, and that's why he couldn't do it. I know Shaggy has praised the float. I think Manny referred to it as like a retreat. And that to me is like ultimately the biggest appeal for the float, and why I would want to go is to do the actual float, to have camping, to, you know, get together like that. But yeah, as this is announced, I'm definitely starting to wonder if I'm going to go this year, just because, you know, if I'm going to travel that far, I would want to see some artists that really stand out to me. I mean, in the previous years, he's had Fun Time Guys, he's had Whitney Payton, he's had Kung Fu Vampire. Who else did he have? I think he had Light for a couple years. Obviously, Shaggy's done it multiple years. And that was the lineup, I guess, I had in my head that I was like, yo, I want to go float. I want to see these killer concerts. And Violent J, I think, would do a fine enough job. But I guess mentally right now, I am kind of more aligned with Shaggy than Jay. So, like, my appeal to go see Shaggy is higher than to go see Jay. And I mean, that's no offense to Jay. It's just, that's just where I'm at mentally, as I would rather see Shaggy. It's nothing personal. It's just me. But, yeah, as the float details come out, my appeal might drop. So, but there has been some announcements for the float. You know, it's kind of a mini gathering, and a lot of people, like I said, have referred to it as like a retreat. And I've also heard other people refer to it as like the early stages of the gathering, the early days of the gathering. And jumping right off of that and right back into the same kind of sentiment, Camp Zool tickets are on sale now. This is the one that has my attention right now, folks. This is the event that I want to go to. This is the event that I would like to experience this year. I would like to check it off my list. There is a list of artists. I don't know if it's the full one. I believe it is. There's maybe one surprise performance that they have still up their sleeve for the Sunday, the last day of the event. It's like a 2-hour block, and if I had to make my guesses and my assumptions, I'm thinking maybe it's a long live evil roster thing where maybe they'll do some Lost Estates. They'll do some Lost Lake Estates songs and possibly even some new shit. If I remember correctly, it was said that they were going to do an LLE album every year, and now that SON is officially part of the group, part of the roster, part of the team, obviously he's going to be involved. And I'm going to just say this right now, and I've mentioned it in a couple of reviews. I think SON has my eyes. He has my attention. Grand Us Eyes is a great fucking album. I actually later today would like to do my review for it and put that out in the near future. He's been teasing his next album, The Bastard Son. It's the Council of Nine. Super duper similar to the 6 Jokers card. Super duper similar to the 12 Oracles. That's obviously where he drew his inspiration, and he said there was a third one. He just did an interview with The Row Show, and if you have not watched that interview, I had shared it in my community tab. Head over there, go watch the interview. If you have no information about SON and you would like to learn who SON is, that's a great interview for you to go check out. But yeah, he has my attention right now. Those are the kind of albums that really get my attention. 6 Jokers card, 12 Oracles, and I love both of those series. So with SON talking about the Council of Nine, he has my attention, and the album Grand Us Eyes is a great introduction into him. And if you have not listened to it, I would suggest going and listening to it, and then you can come back and tell me if you're interested, if he's got your attention or not. But I think SON is definitely one person in the underground right now, aside from Stray. Stray's got my attention too, but SON is somebody that I'm like, in the fucking words of Palpatine. We will watch your career with great interest. He's been around for a little bit, but he's only put out one album that I know of. And I'm excited to hear more. And when he talks and when he raps, his voice is captivating for me. It draws my attention. On the Posse Cut, on the new Famous Fun Time Guys album, his fucking verse stood out to me. Bless the kings, or bless the rings, or kiss the ring. Sorry. Kiss the rings of the kings that run it. It's LLE from the foot to the summit. He fucking, yeah. SON has my attention. Motherfuckers. Let's get to what's probably going to be like the main topic of this video. I'm going to title it this, and I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that my last episode was talking about Alex Abbiss, and this episode is going to be titled Alex Abbiss, because Alex Abbiss is in the fucking news. Alex Abbiss is what's happening now. He's putting out a graphic novel, a comic, and he's going to be debuting it at Astronomicon. He's doing a panel at Astronomicon, and I honestly was not expecting to see any interviews leading up to it. I was expecting the panel to be basically where all these questions that everyone seems to have was going to get asked, and out of nowhere, MC Lars comes with this amazing interview. And I know MC Lars, he had put a comment in the comment section of his video, as well as when he put it on Reddit. He also commented on there that he's not trying to play one side or the other in any kind of a divide. He was just trying to provide journalism, and he did, in my opinion, very, very, very well with it. He had no bias with it. He simply, as a journalist, asked the questions that needed to be asked and let Alex talk. And to me, fucking MC Lars is the best journalist in the Juggalo community right now, period. Don't care who you are. MC Lars, with this interview, fucking killed it. And I honestly always felt like Scotty D was like the interviewer. And Scotty D is still the interviewer, but there are people like MC Lars now that are doing interviews. And if you haven't, go look. It's, I believe, on Spotify you can find it. If you're an iPhone user, you can go to your little podcast app and click on it and go look for MC Lars's podcast. I think it's called the MC Lars Podcast. He did an interview years ago with George Vlahakis of MNE. And when I listened to that interview, I learned so much about George that I never knew. I didn't know anything about George, and that interview was so eye-opening for me of who George was, how he got involved with Psychopathic. George was one of the guys that got a lot of the big names at the gathering back around 2010, 2011, 2012. Because if you don't know, at that point in time, Jump Steady wasn't the one doing it. Jump Steady was an EMS. He was a paramedic. And it was George, the one that was booking like some of those big fucking gatherings that to this day there are people that'll say, oh, the 2012 gathering was the best, or the 2011 gathering was the best. You know, there's people that will fucking, in that period of time that George was the booking agent essentially for the gathering, or he was booking artists, I should say, for the gathering, he was bringing some of these names. It's like, wow, like fucking Ice Cube, Jesus. And you know, I guess on that same note, people could say, oh, so he's to blame for Tila Tequila. And I don't know the specifics of which artist he was personally like responsible for inviting to the gathering, but I know that was part of where his involvement came in. He did a lot of show promotions. That's how he kind of got his foot through the door, and then he started doing like tour managing, and then tour managed for Twisted, and then obviously we know what went on from there. They left Psychopathic. He helped manage them and help them get their, you know, Twisted LLC going, because a lot of people don't know this. When Twisted, I think a lot of people do know this, but they just kind of like omit this information. When Twisted first left Psychopathic, they were just them. It was Twisted LLC. They were literally just going to go do their own thing. It was just going to be them, you know. And then obviously, for those who don't know, in 2013, Violent J put out a Hatchet Herald where he said Blaze left with Twisted, and there was this whole thing where Blaze was like, I didn't know I left. Nobody told me I left, you know what I mean? So it's like there was this whole mess back then even. So then ultimately, you know, Blaze left. Boondocks eventually came back to Psychopathic, released Abaddon in 2014, and then he left again later in 2015. And, you know, there's a lot of shit that really kind of fizzled and bubbled before the split ever happened. And I'm way off topic, but yeah, fucking MC Lars, I think he's a great interviewer. He's up there with Scotty D in my opinion, and I think slowly but surely so is I think Roe is his name. I feel like I'm getting his name wrong, but the Roe show, he's conducting great interviews. The guys at Replicon Radio, I think they conduct really good interviews. There are some really good Juggalo journalists out there, not just one. There's several out there, and there's plenty of interviews to watch. And I always, you know, you hear people say like, don't get your news from just one source, gather it from multiple sources, and I definitely like to do that. I definitely like to hear more than just one side of the story. When this interview first came out, I think in just Discord and maybe on Twitter, I had said like, fucking moral of the story is look at both sides of the coin. You know, listen to both sides of the story. And hearing Alex talk on this was very eye-opening. And again, we don't know for certain because this is just his side of the story. We don't know how much of it is embellished by him, just like we don't know how much of the story has been embellished by Violent J and Shaggy or whomever on the other side. Like there's a lot of embellishments, and I think it's always important to hear every side of the story. That to me is so fucking crucial. You know, literally take ICP's advice and satellite your view of it. Don't just look at this narrow point of view. Zoom it out and look at the whole picture. And then go from there and be like, okay, well, they're saying this. Okay, it kind of makes sense, you know. But then they're also saying this, and, you know, that kind of contradicts this. But then maybe something else happened we don't know about. And I think that's ultimately what it is we don't know the full story, and we probably never will know the full story of anything. All we can do is take what we're hearing and come up with our own speculation, our own observations, if you will. And at the end of the day, that's still just that. It's still just an observation. We still don't know for sure. So I think that's been my biggest takeaway from hearing this interview. And I absolutely loved it because I always knew that they met Alex through Jump Steady. But according to Alex, he was friends with Jump Steady, and they are still friends. They go to conventions together. And that part was really news to me. It's, you know, it's, again, just stay open-minded. Don't pay attention to just one narrow-minded point of view. You know, don't listen to just the dogmatic view of the Jedi. You know, open your mind to it all. Look at every side of the story. And even then, we still don't know the full story. Just got to keep that shit in mind, because I think people take what one person says, they hold on to it, and they run with it. Like, well, fuck you, this person said that. you know, uh, yeah, yeah. I think that's probably going to be a really good ending point for this, just because I could ramble and rant all day, and I don't want to do that. And I've actually got to go get in the shower and get ready for a get together because tomorrow is Easter. So yeah, if you have not watched this interview, go check it out, MC Lars. And again, go watch or go listen to the George Vlahakis interview as well. That might change some perspectives for you. It may not. Who fucking knows? But regardless, it's a great interview, and MC Lars is a great interviewer. So I highly recommend this interview, and I highly recommend the one that he conducted with George. So yeah, I'm going to end it off on that. Tell me down below, are you guys excited for the House of Horror show at the Gathering? Who's excited for Camp Zool? I am. Fuck yeah. Wearing my fucking glow-in-the-dark Zool shirt. And yeah, so tell me down below what you guys are excited for. I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.